the best of the week on Relevant Radio.
I am homeschooling my 12-year-old twins. They think that animal sacrifice is gross and can't understand why God would require it in the Old Testament. If someone tried to sacrifice an animal today in the name of religion, they'd be arrested, probably go to jail. Not necessarily true. The other cried when she said, what kind of God would have innocent animals? Do they like burgers? What kind of God want to have innocent animals sacrificed just to please him? He's not doing it to please him. That's not why God allowed for sacrifice. It was to point the way to the nature of love, that love is always sacrificial. And, the rabbis are very, very careful to this day. In the Old Testament, they're very careful. The slaughter of the animals was done painlessly and without cruelty. I don't know if you want to say this to the kids, but this is a tough thing for kids. And I think you can point out of the passage that God says, I don't need your sacrifices. He says that. And, oh dear, these things were given to us. It's part of the imperfection of the planet. This idea, every time you eat meat, you're sacrificing an animal to please yourself. God didn't sacrifice animals to please himself. He sacrificed animals, allowed the sacrifice of animals to teach us the way to the sacrifice of Christ on the cross. Imperfection is built into the world. Again, I've said this often, I'll say it again, that 7 is the perfect number. It's the fulfillment of earthly perfection and heavenly perfection. That's what it means in the Bible. However, the world was not created in 7 days. The world was created in 6 days. And so, but science says it was 14 billion years. Yeah, that's the way scientists looks at it. God looks at the universe and he sees 6. He sees 2 numbers, 6 and 7. The 7 is perfection. It's God's love for us in the covenant. The word 7 in Hebrew can mean to swear an oath as well as 7. The idea of 7 days is God's perfect love for us. But the world was created in 6 days. On the 7th day, he rested. That means that the world is imperfect. And then we go on to the idea that in Romans, is it in the 8th chapter, where St. Paul says the creation was subject to futility. The creation was subject to futility by the one who subjected it. This isn't a perfect world. It's a world in which we get the chance to choose God, and sin entered the world, and thus everything and everyone dies. However, to God, nothing is lost. I believe even animals. It will all be restored in a new creation. And so we can eat meat. We don't sacrifice animals, but in primitive times, they sacrificed animals as a reminder of the sacrificial nature of love. They were giving up something important. We're promised a new heavens and a new earth, that creation will be restored. And so all those animals and all those critters that were sacrificed, to God, they're all alive. That's what Jesus said. To God, all are alive. He said that when they questioned him about the resurrection of the New Testament. So I hope that helps. To God, all are alive. To us, they look dead, but they're not, because to God, all are alive. That's what Jesus said to the Sadducees. Whew, that's a tough question. Children, they're natural-born philosophers. Thank goodness we get old and convince ourselves we know everything. You can join me and listen on the Relevant Radio app to Father Simon Says live each weekday at 1 o'clock Central. And thanks for listening.